You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
This podcast is brought to you by the wonderful, beautiful, awesome, killer. What other adjectives can I use that are positive and extremely true? Family behind Fuzzrocious Pedals. You've heard Ryan on the show. You know about their stuff. It's all fantastic. You know I've got maybe something cooking with them, or maybe you don't know about that, but I didn't say that I did, so don't worry about it. Yeah, the best thing to do would be to head over and, go to their website, maybe sign up for their newsletter, and that way you can stay abreast of all the latest and greatest. And, it's a good thing to do. Why would you rather, what? You rather get emails from like Best Buy or Walmart? No, you want the Fuzzrocious Pedals newsletter. Of course you do. Yeah, the new newsletter. I meant to say that. Don't worry about my enunciation. Go over there and sign up because stuff is coming your way, I hear, maybe. I'm gonna tell you something that may come as quite a shock. You may not be ready for it, but it's reality. It's what's happening. It's what it is. This episode is sponsored by Sinusoid cables, my favorite cables. If I had a co-host to go off of with these, it would be so much easier for me, but I don't, so I have to pretend and kind of stare at the wall and talk to this microphone and say, try to convince this wall to buy this cable. But you're not a wall. You're a real person. And you need cables. You need to connect all your pedals together. You need to connect your guitar to your pedals, to your amp. Or maybe you're a plug straight in guy. Okay, maybe you are. That's fine. You still need Sinusoid to rock to your fullest because these guys are awesome. They support all these different gear podcasts, including this one, and they're a very, very valuable resource in the community. They're always serving up all the goods. They have the best warranty in the business and fantastic customer service. If you buy something from Sinusoid and you're not happy with it, well, they're going to fix you up. You're not going to have to worry. You will eventually be happy with it. So go to sinusoid.com, get some cables, and just enjoy life more than you're enjoying it right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the ToneMob.com podcast. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have somebody that I've been corresponding on the interwebs with for a while now. I don't know, a couple of years at this point. Mr. Drew Walsh of Walsh Guitars. How's it going, man?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Having a good Saturday, doing the thing. Just got done playing some fuzz pedals with my son, so it's things are looking up.
It's awesome. How old's your son?
He's about 2.5. Yeah.
Nice.
He's a little dude. He says, I want to play pedals. And he comes out and twists knobs. It's the best thing ever.
That's awesome.
So.
My daughter helped me in the shop today. I had just kind of finished up another wave of guitars. And she told me that she wants to build guitars with me. So I told her she could start by vacuuming. So she got my shop back and vacuumed all the floor, which was awesome. So
Nice. How old is she?
Yeah. She's 6. And then I got a 3.5-year-old as well. Actually, she's almost 4. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it, and we can kind of talk about, how we got hooked up initially, and how I've been drooling over your rather unique designs over the years. And but let's just kind of start with your musical backstory and that kind of general thing, as everyone knows. So, like, how'd you get started in music, and then kind of what led you down the path of wanting to make guitars?
Yeah. Let's see. I started playing electric guitar when I was in 5th grade, and my parents took me to this pawn shop. I grew up in Sacramento. My parents took me to this pawn shop, and my dad told me he would buy me a guitar as long as I promised I wouldn't join a band. And and then
really?
like
That's
probably
interesting stipulation. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but what he didn't know is like the only reason I wanted to get a guitar is because I wanted to be in a ska band. Because at the same time, I also played trombone, and
so rad.
I played trombone. I was like, well, I want to play guitar too. So I ended up picking up the guitar 2 years later in 7th grade. Ended up kind of joining a ska band with some friends of mine. I mean, as much of a band that you can really have as a 7th grader.
Right. I know the feeling. Yeah. Yes.
I'm sure we were just completely horrible. But like we learned like all of our favorite songs, like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and all those kind of guys and stuff. So we did that for a couple years. My parents weren't super happy about that, but they kind of came around to that. So I kind of played music with those friends for a good long while. And then in high school, I ended up starting another band with some friends called No Avail. And we played concerts with NOFX. We played was Strung Out a couple times.
Oh man, so, like, I'm jealous. Yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah, so it was super fun. We ended up like at the end of high school, we kind of stopped playing and whatnot. So, but then when I went away to college, I went to Azusa Pacific University in LA and studied music there for my undergrad, and of course joined the band once I got there. And we did a bunch of concerts and stuff in the LA area. I played like the Whiskey and the Knitting Factory and some of those kind of cool venues. Never really, nothing much. What's that?
I just want to say, like, you're doing really horrible at this point as far as keeping up your end of the bargain with the whole not joining a band thing.
I know, right?
like you really have just kind of blown the door. Like you can, your old man held up his end. He got you the guitar. You've really dropped the ball at this point. But
I know, right?
No, yeah, but what was I want to back up to that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Like that seems almost counterintuitive. Like I think most guys, at least anyone that I know that picked up, especially electric guitar, not acoustic players maybe, but like electric guitar players generally want to be in a band. Like I think that's just once you start playing, you kind of want to be. What was his thing there? Like what he didn't want you to be in a band from the kind of inconvenience factor of like having to go to practice and all the time it takes, or what was the deal there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe a little bit. I mean, my family's pretty like conservative and stuff, so I think I have 2 older brothers, and they're like significantly older than me, and I think they were a little bit worried, like having seen like especially my middle brother, how he kind of got mixed in with wrong crowds and stuff, and so I think they were a bit worried, like crap, if he picks up electric guitar, he's going to fall into that same kind of thing. So
got it.
But yeah, I mean, I was a bit more sheltered. Just in that, like, the friends that I ended up forming a band with, that was, like, totally not their scene. So I think they warmed up to the idea once they saw that, like, even when playing with some major bands who did party hard, like,
right.
the guys I was with, they were pretty straight edge, So
yeah, like that didn't mean didn't mean that you were going to do that, right?
Exactly, and they I think they figured that out once I had been doing it long enough, they're like, okay, yeah, he's not going down that path. So
Right. Understandable concern, though, especially if they've already had experience in that department.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
not to dig too
So,
much into
yeah.
that, I just thought that was kind of I was like, wait, what? Why? Okay, I'm on board now. Sorry to interrupt the
Yeah.
story.
No. So yeah, so and then so college, was in a band, and that kind of band was more like I was kind of over punk by that time. And so we were kind of doing more. Oh man, it was kind of it was very eclectic, kind of almost like funk rock, and we even had like a horn section at points where it'd be like, I don't know, it was really weird. So it was a lot of fun. We like for 2 years in college there at Azusa, we won the battle of the bands, and it was just like it was fun times with friends, but we didn't take it too seriously. So once we all graduated, it kind of just stopped there. But yeah, and then from there, so yeah, music was my undergrad, and I come from a religious background and stuff, so I've been involved in different churches doing music, honestly, since I got that first guitar. So once I graduated college, I was hired full time at a church to do their music, and then after being there for about 2.5 years, actually went back to grad school and finished up a post-grad degree, and then was at a church for 4 years in Florida doing music, and now I'm at a church here in Washington, and I oversee the music programs for 3 different churches. We're kind of like a multi-campus church setting here, so I oversee the music and technology and all that kind of stuff for the 3 campuses. So I still do music full time, and then guitar building has become this since 2009 has kind of become this like just labor of love, and it's pretty. I guess probably within the last 4 years or so, it's become like a part-time venture.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, the designs that you do are, they're not a typical, not that I think this is bad or anything, but like a lot of people start with like, let's put together a partscaster type of situation. Obviously, that's not what you're doing now. Did you start there? What kind of like people don't just jump into building guitars the way you do? So where was kind of the first step to that?
Yeah. Well, so this was probably back in 2008. I was doing my post-grad work, and it was only like 3 classes, so I had a lot of downtime. I wasn't working at the time. I was just doing school. And my brother-in-law gave me this just super crappy Squire, and he asked me, he's like, hey, like, I want you to age it, like, just make it look cool and old and vibey. And he's like, but I want you to upgrade the parts, make it more playable. He had like this kind of like connection with the guitar, and he just wanted it to sound and look cool. So I ended up taking.
Oh, sorry. I'm just assuming it was sort of like a nostalgic or emotional connection or something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he had that guitar forever. He wasn't even really much of a guitar player, but he just wanted it to kind of look cool. Like, I don't know. So I ended up taking it and took it apart, and got replacement parts and all that kind of stuff, and like all parts or WD music or something like that, and reassembled it. I put in some like Lindy Fralins and stuff like that, and the guitar ended up sounding really great. I mean, my setup work was like super shoddy, but like, I mean, it looked cool. Like, it was the first time I'd ever really tried to age of guitar or anything. So, and it actually turned out pretty well. And coming out of that, I was kind of like, shoot, man, I could do this. Like, this is fun.
Right.
It ended up being like a lot more fun than I thought, which, I mean, this is why so many of us get into mods and, build your own pedals and stuff like that. And this is why,
it just ends
guys,
up being a good time type of thing. It's like, oh,
yeah,
it sounds like work, but I don't know. It can be can be a good time if you let it be, type of deal.
Well, totally. And this is why, companies like Warmouth and others like thrive, because there's enough of us out there that's if you get a good neck and body, it's fun to do the rest. It's creating the neck and body that no one wants to bother. No one wants to bother with. So they have a smart business model going on.
For sure.
Yeah. So anyways, kind of after that, he actually ended up just letting me keep the guitar. He's like, you know what? Like, this is awesome. You play guitar. I don't even really play guitar. So why don't you just keep it? And I ended up giving it to a buddy of mine just as a gift. And he ended up loving the guitar. And we had a lot of shared friends and stuff. And so he let them play it. They liked it. And then these friends kind of kept coming to me. They're like, hey, could you put together a telly for me or a Strat and that kind of thing. And so that kind of like kicked it off for me. And at that point, like I honestly didn't really know what I was doing. So I was doing probably what every other average Joe was doing, was like, just, I'm going to go buy an all parts neck and, buy an all parts body or go to Warmouth or something like that.
Just like assemble more than, I don't know. More
exactly.
More than like being a luthier, basically. You're assembling your parts.
Yeah. Well, and like, what's funny, like, it's kind of weird that I even fell into all of this, just because my dad was like one of those dads that, like, if something broke around the house, he's calling the repairman. Like, he never, he never taught me, like, like how to use a bandsaw. That would be super advanced for him. Like, I just didn't like grow up around tools or anything like that. So the fact that I like kind of got into this was like, totally like took people by surprise, especially my family. It's just funny.
That is interesting, because I kind of grew up around people who built things and know how to build things, and I'm not great, but I can work with my hands and make stuff and am mechanically inclined, and so I see that kind of stuff sometimes, and it's so foreign to me. I'm like, everyone knows how to use a screwdriver, right? But some people it's just not their thing.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. Yeah, I have an intern right now, and it was literally like that. Like, I had to show him how to properly use, like a screwdriver, how to use a drill press. How to use a hand drill. Like, it was like starting from square one, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And then I remind myself, I'm like, oh yeah, that was actually me, like, 10 years ago. So, yeah, so it's just funny how it comes around.
It does. And it's like, it's kind of, I don't know, if for guys that have done it for a little bit or done things, for a little bit of that nature, it's like when you meet somebody that is your age or older that like doesn't have that kind of knowledge, you're like, you're confused,
Yeah.
And so, and it's like, oh, I'm not commenting bad on them. I'm just saying it's like, it takes me by surprise. I'm like, oh, you don't. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I guess you're not a carpenter, so why would you? But it always like takes you a couple, like, you need my wife worked for somebody that called their handyman out to install a curtain rod, shower curtain rod. Like one of the extendable, screw. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like,
that's awesome.
like it took more effort to pick up the phone. That's what I'm thinking, right? but hey,
That's
everyone's
hilarious.
got their thing, you know.
That's really funny.
Not to go
Yeah,
on
well,
that
I mean,
tangent. That was just a random
no,
thought when you said that.
that's funny. I mean, and that was honestly that was me at that point. Like I was just trying to figure it out as I went. And it's
Hmm.
funny, like, I mean, now it's funny. Then it wasn't. But like it was like the littlest things, right? Like using a screwdriver head that was too small for a screw, and then you end up stripping out all of your screws, and,
Right.
and you're just like, I mean, you learn those things as you go. But it was, and that's kind of honestly how the first probably year and a half of just assembling guitars was.
Hmm.
Luckily, it was for friends, right? So they're super gracious, and you know, it was just a lot of fun, and quite honestly, it was without those that like year and a half of just doing that. If I had just tried to jump in, I probably wouldn't have actually understood, like all the ins and outs of like how a guitar, like all the parts play together as a whole.
Hmm.
Um, it it really helped. It's kind of like if you're an auto mechanic or something, if you really know how to take care of your car, uh, not only like does it just make you more in tune with what you have, but I don't know, you just have a better understanding. If you ever had to create a part from scratch or whatever, it's just you
Right.
have the knowledge there. You know what it takes and what like is good quality versus bad quality.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it
That
was
that
it
was a
was a
good
lot of fun.
that was a good analogy for me because that was my background for a lot of years. So it's like, yeah,
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah, I was a heavy equipment mechanic for uh, trucks and heavy equipment for about 8 years. So that resonated with me. I know what you mean.
Oh, good. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and honestly, so like after probably doing it a year and a half or so, just assembling. This was about 2009.
Hmm.
That's when I started doing the guitar bodies by myself, just trying to just slowly venture out. And so what's funny is like I had just started doing guitar bodies 2009, and one of the very first ones I tried doing by myself. And at this point, I was still sourcing out next to like from like Warmouth or All Parts or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, but one of the very first ones I build on my own, as far as the body goes, Mason Stoops ended up buying,
Oh, really?
and yeah, and that's that white guitar that he's just like beat to shreds.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's still, I mean, 2009. Which
That
that's when I consider myself actually first having started Walsh guitars. Uh, yeah, and he like bought like it was either the first or the second guitar. That's the one that he still plays today.
I
So
had no
it's
idea
just
that was yours. I've seen that thing a million times. So that's pretty cool.
yeah. I mean, he's done a trillion mods to it, right? I think like the bridge is original, and obviously the body and neck are original. But other than that, like I mean, the pickups he went to the pickups that were in that originally. I think were either Lawlers or Freylands,
Hmm.
and he ended up swapping them out for some Don Mayers. And now the bridge is if I remember right, it's actually a real 1954 Telecaster bridge pickup. And then he has a Gaiatone,
That's
kind of like a yeah, they're funky like orange
yeah.
foil.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's the one. Yeah, I think you're right about the bridge. I can picture this guitar in my head. So,
yeah. And then
and
he
I've
had
always
like
thought that guitar's so cool. I didn't know it was
yeah, I
yours.
mean he definitely he made it cool. Like when I gave it to him, it was like it was okay. I mean, but I mean honestly, Mason makes everything cool, so you got
True
to give that
story.
to him.
It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. And he like at one point he had some like a guitar fetish preamp in there that had like a mid range boost and some kind of EQ enhancer, I think they called it. So there's like, I think this is like probably the first generation of Mason Stoops mods. Was he created this funky pickguard, and the pickguard extended between the bridge and the mounting plate. I don't know if you have seen pictures of that, but he had like 3 little mini toggle switches there, and that was to engage that preamp. And so now he's back to standard vintage style wiring. But that guitar's it's seen a lot of work.
It's seen some things, man. I've seen some things. Yeah.
The stories it could tell.
Maybe it shouldn't.
So,
be quiet, guitar. Yeah. Don't you mention that ever again.
That's right. So I mean that's kind of it. I mean, honestly, going from there, it's been one venture after another, and it's been cool. Like the last 4 years I've been here in Washington, and here I have like my own separate shop. It's not massive, but it's large enough for me to do everything. And since I've moved here, I've been able to hire on an extra hand. And he used to do all the setup work for the Gibson custom shop. And so he's kind of like my last stop. It goes to him, and he does the final setup and just kind of makes sure that quality control is what it should be and that kind of thing. He just does a really great job with those final details. And then I also have another guy who helps with necks, and it's been cool because like since I've been here, it's all been kind of like this long process of growth, because it was assembly, then it was like building the body, and then still sourcing out necks, and now it's like whenever possible, everything's done in shop, and I have those 2 guys to help me out with that. So, and that's why I like now we're doing like kind of cool fretboard markers and all these kind of things that you would never see, like a Warmoth or Guitar Mill doing that kind of thing. So,
right,
it's been cool.
It's really neat. I mean, what first kind of drew me to your stuff? We probably like how most of these things happened, connected on Instagram, and I just remember looking at your body shapes and things and going, that just is really cool. It's really different. And through kind of just, as our social media stuff goes, like I started seeing you seem to have quite an affinity for oddball, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like Italian and old German things and all these kind of sort of weird, things, but are still very aesthetically pleasing, but not what we consider traditional as, the American stuff we're used to. What kind of brought that on?
Yeah, well, I was, so probably until 2000, I guess it was 2013. Until then, I was still only doing, Tellys, Strats. I was doing some Jazzmaster, Jaguar kind of stuff. And then I dabbled a little bit with like Les Pauls, Les Paul Juniors, and I'll still do a Telly occasionally. I don't like doing Strats. I'm honestly, someone out there might hate me after saying this, but like I don't like Strats. I grew up playing a Telly or a Les Paul, and that volume knob's just too close to the bridge for me. It kills me. So.
Strats for me, and I have said this before a couple times, but for me, I like very specific ones, but generally, like your average Strat for me is not super aesthetically pleasing. And I don't know if it's because I've seen it too much. I mean, don't get me wrong, like they sound amazing. I love that sound, and certain models I think look really cool. But across the board, like just to show me Stratocaster, I go, doesn't excite me very much. I don't know why that is. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And for me, it was that for sure. Like it's been, not only has it been done by a lot of people, but it's just to me it's a tired design now.
Yeah.
And that's just personally. Like, I mean, obviously, it's still like probably one of the best selling guitars of all time. So there's going to be a lot of people who argue with me on that. So
right. Well, and they feel great and they sound great.
Yeah.
It just aesthetically, it doesn't get me super excited. And it's probably, like I said, just because, like you said, it's been done so many times. But maybe that's why the Strats I like are the somewhat less favorable ones. You know, I like the Strats that I do like are generally like solid black or solid white with, you know, like a rosewood fretboard and a big headstock, which is kind of not traditional. So I don't know.
I actually, it's what's funny is like I have a pretty massive guitar collection.
Oh,
and it's like you said, it's there are like I have a lot of funky vintage guitars. Like I have several vintage Kappas, which I don't know if you're familiar with that brand, but they're amazing guitars, and you can get them for dirt cheap. So I have several of those. I have some Hofners from the 60s and 70s. I have a couple of Hagströms, Tysca. I have a lot of Tyscas. I have a couple Echoes from Italy, and several vintage Gretches and stuff. But even the Gretches, I don't have like a 6120. I mean, like the Gretches that I have are like the Beast. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, the Beast rules.
Yeah, so I have one of those, and oh my gosh, I'm totally Corvette. So like, you know, like the oddball ones that never really like super took off. Those are always kind of my favorite guitars. But yeah, so like I was doing still though the Strats and Tellys until like 2013.
Right.
And
can we back up real quick 1 second? I have a question for you about Hagströms in particular. I always thought they were really cool looking, and they seem to be pretty well made. And I don't know if this is across the board, but all of the older ones that I've played had the weirdest tiny little neck on them that I couldn't play very well at all. I mean, I like big necks generally. My favorite necks are like my junior and, you know, big, stupidly sized, huge necks. But the Hagström is the only guitar that I picked. I'm like, I'm gonna buy that. Look how cool it is. And I picked it up and played it for 30 minutes and went, you know what? No, because my hand's starting to hurt. This is the weirdest tiny little neck. Are they all like that?
Yeah, yeah, they are. So I have a Hagström Viking Deluxe. It's 1969, I believe. And it basically it looks like a 335, but it's a bolt. But it's a bolt-on neck. And that thing. So I took a measurement at the first fret. It's 0.78 of an inch, which is like, I mean, that's stupid thin. And even at the 12th, it's only 0.85 of an inch, which honestly, I mean, 0.85, that's where most first frets are like beginning in measurement. So
right.
I mean, it's a thin neck, but like for me, it's great because I have smaller hands. And so like, it feels perfect for me. Like for me, it's not a shredder guitar, but that neck for me is like, if I was a shredder, that's the neck I would want.
That's what's weird about me. I've said it on the show a couple times, but like, I don't have very big hands. I've got like, I'm a shorter dude, and I've got like small, weird, stubby fingers. But for some reason, I like guitars that play like baseball bats. Not across the board, but like I tend to favor big necks, and they're always, ever since I started playing my junior, found that they were more comfortable for me, and I could actually play better on them. I don't know why. Maybe I have messed up hands. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Your junior Your Junior, by the way, like for me, it's like the quintessential Junior. Like if there was like a Junior, I would go for it. It's the one that you got. That thing is awesome. I love that guitar.
I was just playing it. That was what I was playing before we started recording, and I obviously have a very close personal connection to it that I've talked about a million times. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, Drew. That's the Junior I would buy if I wasn't so fortunate to have had it in the family. You know.
Yeah. It's just like it's got like all the right wear in all the right places. Just so good. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what happens when you get like a legit player from that. I mean, this was just a guitar. Like, you know what I mean? It was like they didn't care about him. You know, I take pretty good care of it for obvious reasons, but like my grandpa didn't. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't beat it.
Yeah.
He didn't purposely hurt it, but he just played it like it's a guitar. Kind of like I treat my Les Paul Special. It's like, yeah, this has a guitar. It's got a nick in it, whatever. You know?
Well, and see, that's why those guitars are such great players, is because back then those weren't, like the several $100 guitars. I mean, when people bought those were more like I want a good brand, but I don't want to pay a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were the ones that got played hard. And so they just got so much mojo. They're great guitars.
It just soaks right in there. Soaks right in there.
Yeah.
But we've went off track. So
yeah.
which is what happens, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But you've been doing some builds for the last couple of years that it seems like, just by nature of them being kind of spin-offs of these, not spin-offs, but like you said, you got a big collection, and I'm sure you take inspiration from all these quirky old weird instruments. Yeah. Do you have some that are kind of you said you got now everyone's going to scream at me.
Yeah.
What is the appropriate pronunciation of Tisco or Tisco? I hear it in very many different ways, and I don't know which is correct.
That's a great question. I don't know either. I always say Tisco, but it's probably just because that's what everyone's always said to me, so I'm just following suit.
I mean, I'm down with that. That's what I thought it was the first time I read it, but then I heard Tisco a bunch, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
anyway, and I love Japanese guitars. Like, I have like a Kent. I have a couple Tiscos. I've got an Elk. I don't know if you've heard of Elk, but So
definitely.
I have a lot of different Japanese ones, and some of them are really great, and some of them I have a Norma as well, and like they just don't play well, and that's the only thing. And what's funny is, like, I mean, I know that a lot of Japanese brands went through this phase where they're like the famous lawsuit guitars.
Of course.
But really, when you get past that era, and even during that era, there's a lot of quite original Japanese designs. I mean, I think people, they get a bad rap, but people kind of forget that, like, the Japanese, like, were like kind of actually ahead of their time when it came to guitar design. They were trying stuff that the American and British guitar makers would never do. It was too experimental, and that's kind of what drew me to it. And in 2013, like I just made a decision that year that I was going to stop doing classic designs, because there are just so many phenomenal guitar builders out there doing Tele style and Strat style, Les Paul style guitars. And quite honestly, I was, in my opinion, at that point, at least in 2013, I was just thinking, I was like, man, these guys are doing it, but they're doing it better than me. So,
right.
Like, I mean, and they're riding on the laurels of like a lot of years of doing it. And for me, it was just like, like, I'm not drawn to that design as much. Like, I've been doing that design just because it sells, but like at heart, like the German designs and the Asian designs, to me, I found much more interesting and exciting and experimental. So that's kind of like where I kind of headed down that road, and now it's kind of gotten out of hand because I have like
As the
I
best
have
things tend
like
to do.
yes, I know, right? But I mean, like most guys, like they'll hone in on like, okay, here's my 3 models or 4 models of guitars, and this is all I do. And I've got like 12, 15. I have 12 models of guitars, I think, right now, but I'm working on another 3 prototypes right now. And one's going to release next week because I'm not able to go to NAMM this year. Just it's a lot of money to swing. So
It is. Are any of your guitars
yeah.
going to NAMM though?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, I'm sure Mason Stoops will be there, and there's some other companies like amp companies and stuff that are going to be there that I know own my guitars, but I'm not sure if they'll be taken. Like John Thompson at Bad Cat's a good friend of mine, and he usually will take a guitar or 2 of mine there. And then Earthquaker Devices, Corey Juba, who's one of the guys who works at Earthquaker, he's got one of my guitars. So I had guitars at their booth last year as well. So, but yeah, this year I'm kind of staying low, and since I'm not going to be at NAMM, I'm going to be debuting a new prototype next week.
Well, cool. I'll look forward to that. This is going to be.
Yeah,
I hope it comes out in time. This all kind of depends on lots of factors, but this is like the last episode before NAMM, so
nice.
hopefully I can pop this out in time, so people can listen on their flight in, or while they're sanding down prototypes or whatever they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to remember what booth it was that I played one of your guitars at last year. Was the first time, even though I've been kind of talking for a long time. I hadn't played one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was at the Creation booth or I can't remember where it was.
Well, I had a Bara at the Creation booth.
That was it. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, because I also had a couple guitars at the Classic Audio Effects. I had 3 or 4 guitars at the Fox Pedal, 2 guitars at Earthquaker, and 2 guitars at Bad Cat.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was a little crazy last year. This will be a nice quiet January for me. So,
oh man, good times.
Yeah.
But so since this is probably going to drop like right around the same time as your prototype, it's coming out. Not that like people can see it on a audio podcast, but like, is there something special about this one that you would or that care to divulge or otherwise expand on?
Yeah. So I mean, what's funny, or maybe not funny, I guess what's odd about my guitars is that no 2 guitars are really alike. It's like there might be a Bara that has a like a Telecaster bridge, and then there's another one that's got a Tunematic, and then the next one, that's kind of the fun part of being a custom shop, is that no 2 guitars are alike. So the new prototype, the elements on it are not necessarily like this is the standard. What's the standard is just the body style, and the body style is kind of like if you took a jazz bass and you miniaturized it into guitar form, and then took elements of some echo designs, and then kind of threw all that together, and then the bridge is actually a Melita style bridge, which are kind of like those 1950s, really early 60s Gretsch style bridges.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's made by MB Matic, and MB Concepts, the company that made it. They make very accurate replicas of the Melita style bridge, but it's like, to me, like the MB bridges and Mastery bridges, I mean, like they're just amazing works of of metal art. I mean, it's just really great craftsmanship. So that's the bridge, and then the vibrato on the prototype is actually a new old stock 1967 Hagstrom vibrato.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the Hagstrom, the original Hagstrom factory closed a few years ago, and they were getting rid of like all these vibratos and new old stock parts for really cheap. And I bought like 15 of these vibratos. So so I've been sitting on several of them for special projects. So.
Oh man, that sounds so cool.
Yeah, so this guitar is just like super vibey. It's got a roasted 5A flame maple neck. It's got a Bacote fretboard. So it's just like, it's real wild. This prototype is aged, and just because what I was really going for was that 60s Italian meets American kind of design, and so I wanted it to look the part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's really exciting, and I'm also right now I'm working on a lap steel new design.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I lap steel is like one of my favorite instruments. I suck at it, but like I love listening to lap steel, and I dabble horribly, but like I've always wanted to make my own lap steel design, so I'm kind of working on that as well. So it's gonna be fun times.
That is exciting. Yeah. I don't see a lot of lap steel in the whatever you want to quote unquote boutique world. Like you don't see that that much. That's really exciting. I'm gonna be excited to see what you do there. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know why, because maybe it's just because like the Nashville world, I guess most of the hardcore players are doing pedal steel, not lap steel.
Right.
But then I don't know, you still get guys though. I mean, like Asher Guitars, and he's an inspiration for me when it comes to lap steel and some of those more eclectic style instruments. But like Asher, he makes a killer lap steel, and I mean, he does really well with that. And so that's kind of where I'm kind of drawing some inspiration from. My design will not be anything like his, but although I probably will use his. Asher makes a killer lap steel bridge that I'll probably end up using. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the answer. I love pedal steel so much. I love listening to it. But I look at it and go, no, I can barely play guitar, let alone all them levers and not,
I know.
And I mean, I'm like you too. You probably a better player than I am, but I come from a kind of the punk rock background, so I'm just like, like power chords and stuff are pretty hard sometimes.
Yeah.
so I look at pedal steel players and I'm just amazed. But man, it's one of my very favorite things to listen to. So maybe lap steel would be a good stopgap where I can like sort of comprehend and mimic certain aspects of it without overloading my little brain.
Well, totally. And like for me, I thought about, because I do have a large instrument collection, I was thinking about like, well, maybe I'll just buy like an inexpensive pedal steel or something like that. But then the more I looked into it, like it doesn't have 6 strings, and it's like crazy alternate tunings. And like I'm like, well, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how to play guitar well, let alone like 9 strings, 8 strings. No thanks. Like that's too much for me. So that's the great thing about lap steel, is that like it's still 6 strings, and you can tune it into like open D, drop D, I mean, like all sorts of cool stuff that like whatever makes sense for your mind as a guitarist, it translates well to a lap steel. So for me, it just makes sense to have something like that as a part of my lineup.
I think it's going to make sense to have that as part of my stash. I'm going to need a lap steel in my life.
Exactly. Well, we'll work something out.
You're making that sound really appealing right now. That sounds like, yeah, I could just sit down with a
Perfect.
lap steel and a bunch of pedals and just like lose
Oh
myself for
man.
a while.
Yeah,
Well,
honestly, a lap steel, a good like nice overdrive, some reverb and delay, and you'll be like in heaven for a couple hours.
that sounds
That's
like
all you need.
such a good time. Maybe
Yeah.
stereo, maybe with some
Oh yeah.
modulation, maybe with some
Yeah,
fuzz.
definitely.
Oh wait, I'm getting out of hand again, uh, as I'm wont to do. Do you? We've talked a lot about guitars, which is
hmm
unusual. We usually are discussing chicken fried steak or something by this point. But do you get what styles of music do you play? I know you do a lot of music stuff with your church, but outside of that, do you
hmm
ever get a chance to play NoFX songs again or anything like that?
Oh man. uh, yeah, I haven't touched punk music in a long time. I kind of got a little burnt out on that. Um, but like musically, like what I personally listen to, like I love pretty wide gambit of stuff. So like I'm a huge Muse fan. Uh, just like Muse as a whole, like just I've seen them several times live, and they are entertainers,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just super fun to listen to and to play. So I love Muse. But everything from that to even just like kind of more folksy stuff like the Civil Wars and
Nice.
uh, to like very like fuzz driven stuff, like White Stripes and all that kind of scene. But like, I guess like recently, what I've been getting into is more of like almost like more like Americana
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. And so yeah, it's just hard when it's like when playing music is or making or arranging music is my full time job. It's always kind of hard to like actually find time just to play for fun. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like one of my things I'm trying to set myself out to do this year is just to get back into the enjoyment of like personal music making. Um, so like for example, I decided this year that I'm really huge into like old school. This is gonna sound weird, but like Afro spiritual gospel.
Okay.
So you get like that gospel choir doing like the ooze and that kind of thing behind it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's a guy named Brady Toops, and Brady Toops does like this cool indie rock infused with Afro spiritual, and it's just so cool. And so I love arranging music, and so that's probably this next year. That's what I'm going to spend some time doing, is trying to just arrange that kind of thing and write guitar parts for that. So get me out of my normal kind of music I listen to, trying to expand myself a bit.
Nice. That sounds
Yeah.
like a lot of fun. I I I can appreciate that, and I actually think I need to work on kind of expanding some of my horizons at times. I have a pretty wide background, or not background, but like
Mm-hmm.
listening. I listen to a lot of different music. I don't know what the fancy term I was trying to come up with was, but
Yeah.
and I made a playlist the other day for some of my friends, uh, and it was titled just like what you would expect me to listen to, and I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of dumped a bunch of my favorite songs in there. They were like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I would expect you to listen to," and I kind of went, and I was joking when I made it, but I was like, and I really got to looking. I'm like, this is exactly what I would expect me to listen to too. Uh, but I like other stuff. I think I should explore that other stuff a little more widely, um,
Yeah.
rather than kind of like, I don't know, the well-known hits in that particular genre. That's not the norm that I would listen to, I guess.
So
Um,
what do you listen to?
I mean, I really like outlaw country. I'm a big fan of that. I
Nice.
like early 2000s hardcore like quite a bit. That's kind of formative
Mm-hmm.
stuff for me. Um, I like and I like punk rock from that similar era. Big Dropkick Murphys fan.
Nice.
So Flogging Molly and bands like that. Thrice is my favorite band. I think people have figured that out by now, and I don't think that's ever going to change.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Lucero is another one of my favorites. I can't get enough of them. But it's all kind of stuff I've just talked about ad nauseum, and people just, at least my good friends and my family, like they just kind of they just expect like, like people, this is what he likes, and I'm like, I like other stuff too. So kind of trying to explore the more older school kind of soul music and stuff. My wife's really into that stuff, and I haven't really listened to it that much in depth. The more I do, the more I really really enjoy it. So
it's awesome.
I got some searching to do. I've also started to actually enjoy listening to more ambient kind of heavy bands, I guess. I'm not really sure what the term for it is, but I've been listening to This Will Destroy You quite a bit, and I'm like, they play kind of what I play by myself, which is like lots of fuzz and lots of reverb and crazy droning. I mean, I'm generalizing, but like it's kind of what I do by myself, and so it's fun to hear somebody else do it with a full band, I guess.
I'll have to check that out.
It's an interesting band. They've been around for a long time, and they produce some rad soundscapes, I guess.
Huh.
So,
well, if your wife does like soul, she would probably super like Brady Toops, like I was talking about earlier. It's very soulful. So
yeah, it sounds cool. She's recently got me into well, not so recently, but she got me into Leon Bridges. I don't know if you've heard him, but
I haven't. No.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Based on this conversation, you'd probably be a fan. He's pretty cool. Very
Leon
throwback.
Bridges.
Yeah, Leon Bridges. Very, very cool. I don't know. I get a kick out of his stuff, and that's kind of what's sending me down that path. So I'll have to investigate them too. That sounds Brady Tubes. Sounds cool.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at Leon Bridges on iTunes now, so I'll have to check that out. Nice. Very cool. Huh.
This is great casting. I wish I could insert a Leon Bridges tune right here, but
I know, right?
That would be. There you go. It'd be a great segue. But, well, we are approaching that hour mark, and we've yet to kind of discuss the most important and very valuable question that probably honestly going to make or break, this entire podcast. So I'm gonna have to. I mean, I don't want you to feel any pressure. I don't want you to get too worked up about it. But Drew, sorry, this is a big one. Drew, what kind of pizza do you like?
Oh man, that is a tough question. Okay, so do you go to Mod Pizza at all?
Yes, I do. I've been there a couple times. Yeah.
Okay. So at Mod Pizza, they have this. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's the one that has the white sauce on it. I'm not remembering the name, but I can tell you what's on it.
That's most important.
It's like Okay, good. All right, so it's an Alfredo-based sauce, but then I add basil. It's got mozzarella cheese. It's got spinach and spicy sausage and bacon. And then let's see, it's got sweet hot peppers. It's got roasted garlic.
Oh man.
Yeah, I like cleaning my pores with my pizza
Of course.
Kind of like a two for one deal there.
Yeah, you got to get your bang for the buck. Of course.
Exactly. And then at the end, I throw on some ricotta cheese, and then they like drizzle balsamic glaze on it.
This sounds fantastic. I would definitely eat that pizza for sure.
Yeah. So it's usually that, or just like just straight up like meat lovers. So I'll go either way, but that's like the two kinds of pizza I would get.
It's hard to go wrong with the meat lovers. I mean,
yeah,
even a not that good one is still like, I can at least scrape the toppings off and enjoy that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your whole week's worth of protein right there. You just get it done.
Whole weeks.
Well, at least in my house. I mean, my wife's a hippie, so it's like if it was up to her, we would all be vegetarians or vegans or something. So I gotta get my red meat whenever I can. When she's not around.
I understand. You gotta sneak out. Let me smell
the red meat.
Yeah, let me smell your breath, Drew. You've been hitting the red meat again, haven't you?
Well, if she can smell the roasted garlic, she knows I've had the red meat as well.
You told me never again. Making this much more dramatic than it actually is.
It's better this way.
Of course. I'm just picturing this whole soap opera just playing out.
Exactly.
Never mind. We're not going to go there. That could be weird. Well, yeah, thanks. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this, to ramble on with me.
Yeah, man.
We need to, talk about this lap steel stuff some more.
Yeah. Well, I hope to have the prototype done sometime within the next 2 months or so.
Cool.
So I've already made templates for it. It's just kind of fine tuning some stuff, and because this isn't the normal thing I would do, I want to source the right kind of parts. This is just very much like not my average world, so I want to make sure I do it right and make the right choices for the first one. So, but yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
That is. I think that's gonna be. I'm excited to see what you do with it. I've played your guitars. One of your guitars and admired many images of them, and I feel confident. So
nice.
It's gonna be
awesome.
It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
right
cool.
on.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for letting me chat with you. It's been good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. We'll have to hook up and do it again sometime. We can talk more about our food preferences.
And the drama that will assuredly come
that will unfold
thereafter. Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. For Drew, this is Blake, and as always, good luck and good tones. All right. That does it for this week, good people of Tone Mob Land. You should definitely go to Drew's website, walshguitars.com, check out his wares. I highly encourage it. Or check him on the social medias, at Walsh Guitars, blah, 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 blah. You know how all this works. And if you don't, just search Walsh Guitars on Google. You'll find him. And you'll be happy that you did. In other important announcements, NAMM 2018 is coming up fast. Yes, fast. As in just like a few days, sort of kind of fast. Friday, the 26th. There's going to be a bunch of listeners, community members, rad dudes and gals, all showing up to eat pizza. We're going to be eating pizza at NAMM's second annual Tone Mob Pizza Party, and it's presented by Sinusoid because Andy and company are amazing people, and so we're going to be all chowing down. There might be a drawing. I'm not saying there is, but there might be a drawing. And if you want to know the details, hit me up at info@tonemob.com or, on any of the social medias, and we'll get you squared away with all the details. But second annual Tone Mob Pizza Party, you're not going to want to miss it. So hopefully I see you there. Bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.